Hello and welcome to a special edition of Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. Today I'm going to be doing something slightly different in that this is not just an ordinary Matchbox makeover. This is of a collectible item that was released by Matchbox Lesney, and it's one of their yesteryear vehicles attached to an ashtray. Now I've tried to do a bit of research on this and there is not a lot of information out there that I could find. I even looked in this encyclopedia of Matchbox toys that I have at the unusual section at the back where they have novelty items, for example some coins there like a challenge coin, all sorts of different stuff, not your mainstream Matchbox vehicles. What's that one there? Pee Wee Herman. Anyway, after looking through this book, I saw they had loads and loads of stuff I didn't know, like these metal figures made from die-cast metal. And also things such as this set of road signs that would have been great to play with. There's also some Matchbox garage kits and various other bits and pieces, but I could not find these ashtrays in this book. So I guess they're in another book somewhere. There'd have to be some record of them. Anyway, I don't even know what vehicle this is, so I looked at the yesteryear section and I'm looking at this model. I noticed it's got a split windscreen, a circular hood ornament and a spare tyre only on the right hand side. It's also a twin-seater. So I had a browse through all of the yesteryear models and finally identified it as this Y13 1911 Daimler. So this model was picked by Matchbox from its range to adorn this ashtray. Not a bad choice. Now I do remember my father having one of these when I was a kid, but I think that was a Rolls Royce. Now in this book it shows that the Daimlers were issued in 1966. My one's got a missing front grille, so the silver plated ones with the maroon seats had a black grille, so I'm going to have to manufacture or source a black grille for this model. Anyway, let's separate it from the base, separate it from the ashtray, which by the way is in really good condition. There's no chips or cracks in it. As you can see, the model is held into place by two domed-headed slotted screws. So this was probably made before Phillips head screws became popular. What do you think? I should have picked a slightly smaller screwdriver because I'm struggling to get this off. But I managed to loosen them enough for this back plate to move, and I'm assuming it will fall off if I can line up the keyway with the head of the screw and give me a little bit of play to get my fingers around these heads and screw them off the remaining few threads. However, I couldn't do that, so I stumbled around here with my fat fingers for a little while, had another dig with the screwdriver. Eventually I got it off. So this has probably never been removed in 40 or 50 years. So pleasantly surprised, there's no damage to the underside there where it attaches. Now there's two collars that caught my eye. I noticed they are slightly different sizes. One's longer than the other. I worked out that the long one goes at the rear of the vehicle and the short one goes at the front of the vehicle, thereby allowing the model to sit horizontally when it's screwed into place. The screws also are different lengths, so something to bear in mind when you're putting it back together, because normally things like that get mixed up and just takes up time that is wasted. Right. First time now I can actually look at this model and notice the beautifully detailed red seats or maroon seats. There's somebody's painted this one with some horrible white paint that didn't really take. Also this was silver plated, it says. I don't know if it's real silver or fake silver, but it's been coming off over the years, and here you can see the radiator grille is missing. Nice detail on the front there. Here I'm showing you there's just some random blobs of white paint on the side. I guess a kid did it. and he painted the wheels too, so the spoked area is full of webs of dried paint. You can make out underneath there it says 1911 Daimler. So I did indeed pick the right model out of the book. Now I've got some other yesteryear models here that people have donated. Most of them are in pretty ordinary condition, which is cool because that's what I'm here for, to try and make them look new again. And I figured that Matchbox is quite common for Matchbox to interchange parts, common parts. So I was expecting to find a radiator cover or radiator front end from another model that they might have repurposed. However, I underestimated Matchbox's attention to detail, and each and every one of these vehicles has its own individual radiator. So I actually got lucky, I thought, with this one here. I thought I might rob that and then order another one online, and this will do me for now. So as an experiment, I thought I'll just pull that off and see if it fits, and if it does, then I'll have a complete kit. So I'll just move those out of the way, and before I resort to destroying another vehicle, well, just taking the grill off really, it's not destroying it, but I thought I'd look in this little random bag of bits here that was in the box. There possibly might have been one there, but no, there isn't. That actually looks like the front end of the Daimler right there. So this is probably all parts of a Daimler that has been taken to part by someone and sent to me. There's the number on the packet there. So I've got my work cut out to source or manufacture a radiator grille. I do have the 3D printer. It's not very good at fine details, but I don't have too many options, so I'm going to give it a go. As usual, I have to remove a couple of rivets underneath, a couple of rivet heads, and pull this thing apart so I can give it a thorough clean. And I'm hoping to spray it with some really, really good chrome paint and make it look the real McCoy again. This model, by the way, was bought from the Mill Market in Geelong. I was there one day with my sister and brother-in-law and my wife Julie, and I saw it in a cabinet and it was priced at $40, and I thought, nah, I can't. Do I really want it? Nah. Anyway, I tossed and turned that night and I wished I'd bought it. So the very next day I shot back down into Geelong again, and I scoured the place because I couldn't remember which cabinet it was in. I finally found it and I snapped it up, as I said, for the princely sum of $40. And that's why I'm bringing it to you today, because I thought it would make for a very interesting and unique video. So I hope you enjoy it. Right, I've just guessed the size of the drills there. It's not a case of one drill suits all, as I'm sure you're all aware. So each and every model now, I just fumble around and find the one that works. I've taken off 95% of the head of the rivet. The rest of it I'm hoping to deform by prising this apart. And that way you generally get a fairly firm fit when you push it back together. I'm not going to tap and drill these rivets out on this model, because when it's attached to the ashtray, no one will see underneath anyway. So it will look good, and I'm just merely going to glue it on for the purposes of well, showing another technique that you don't necessarily need screws and taps to do this hobby. There's a little headlight assembly there, and it's held in place by another rivet. It's a combined, well, it's two assemblies actually. It's a headlight assembly and a grille. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pry the grille off, because I want to paint that separately. And I'm going to leave the headlights in place because there's no need in taking it apart unnecessarily. It's interesting to see how many parts there are to this model though. You know, you think it's one casting, but it's not. It's multiple parts. Like there you've got the radiator, the windscreen, the headlight, and the bonnet of the car there. So quite involved, a lot of parts, and count them up, I think there might be like maybe 20 parts. Steering wheel pops out with a little bit of light pressure. It's only a plastic square peg in a square hole. There you go. I'm just showing you again that the windscreen frame is a separate part held on again by a rivet, but I'm not disturbing that today because it won't solve any problems. It will just create some for me. Now for something different, I'm cutting the axles in half rather than trying to grind the heads off, because the heads are quite close up to the wheels and I have ruined wheels in the past by attempting the impossible. So today instead I'm very gently cutting through, and I'm going to use the aluminium tube technique to reassemble these axles. I'm sure if you've seen Time Rider you'll know what I'm talking about. He was the first person I saw use it, and I thank him for that. That was quite interesting, and it's given me a new thing to show you. I had to cut that axle to the side because you can see there's like a sump underneath the engine there that I didn't want to damage. I've pulled the seats out, and I'll show you just quickly how I did that. They're plastic seats, and they have a plastic molded pin that's been squished and heated underneath to hold the seats in. So I just hit them quickly with my blowtorch and pull, and the seats come out quite cleanly. I'm leaving that wheel on there. I will be removing the tyres. But again, I don't want to give myself work. Now looking at this front tyre, I thought I'd melted it when I was trying to take the seats out. But I checked the pictures at the beginning, and indeed, this is one of the reasons you shouldn't put plastic on an ashtray. I think that this was melted by somebody's cigarette many years ago when it was in use as an ashtray. Anyway, I'm going to take the tyres off now. I'm going to use the old trick of immersing them in some very hot water. These tyres have been on this model since it was made, and they can be very stubborn and sometimes brittle. I don't want to break anything. So I'm just boiling up a kettle here. And then when I pour the hot water into this bowl and place the tyres in it, they should become supple and soft and enable me to remove them quite easily. I'm using tweezers because obviously I don't want to burn my fingers. The water is near boiling. So I just drop them in there and let them warm up for a couple of minutes. And as I said, the tyres, the rubber tyres, should go soft, and hopefully they'll come off those rims extremely easily. So I think they've probably been cooking for long enough there. So now I'm going to fish them out one by one using the tweezers. And you'll be amazed at how easy they come off. They just literally fall off. I guess maybe even the rubber may have expanded, because this surprised me how easily they did come off. That one there, special case, special needs this one. I'm going to have to put it in attached to the rear of the vehicle, and that one comes off equally easy, which is great. Now it's revealed all the bare metal and paint for me to attack with paint stripper and get this thing looking like new again, hopefully. Now these spoked wheels are quite annoying because, as I said before, they're full of old paint. So one by one I painstakingly clean up the gaps as best I can using some magnifying lenses on my head and these very needle sharp toothpicks. When you're using these toothpicks or dental tools, you got to be careful because there's a sharp point on both ends and they point opposite to each other. So when you're working like I am now, there's one at the other end pointing up near your face. And if you get too involved with what you're doing, you can actually spike yourself and it hurts. This was quite tedious and time consuming. Every time I thought I was close to finishing, I spotted another bit that was there. But I got there in the end, and I'm using some of this Molotov chrome ink pen, chrome ink, to freshen these rims up. They come up pretty good. Now this here is a close-up of showing you what the silvering would have looked like when this was brand new. But it seems to have been affected maybe by sunlight or heat over the years. It's crazed up and is flaking off. I've never tried to remove this material before, so I'm going to try some paint stripper. I suspect it's not actually really silver plated. I think it might be some kind of plastic coating, but I can't be sure. I'm sure someone out there knows. If you do, let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to find out how Matchbox made these look so shiny. They did also come out in gold as well. Those must have been like the little prestige vehicles for VIPs. This one's just a silver one. And out of interest, the ashtrays themselves, I've seen them in different shapes. Like you've got rectangular one like I've got. I've also seen an oval and a crescent shaped one and a standard square one. So they'd make for an interesting collection. Maybe someone out there has collected them. Wouldn't surprise me. This is my first one and I'm quite enjoying doing this up. Now Julie bought me a bottle of chrome paint. It cost $58 and I nearly fell over backwards. Because that works out at about $1 for 2 millilitres, I think it is. I hope it works. So the preparation of the spray gun involves running some alcohol through the nozzle because this silver paint is alcohol based. So I always start off with some thinners that are compatible with the product I'm using. Now the guy in the shop apparently said that you don't really need much of this, just a couple of drops. Well, I wouldn't have thought a couple of drops would cut it myself. Now here I am, like $1, $2, $3, $4, there we go. So I'm going to try this. This is the first time I've run this stuff through the paintbrush or the air gun. And I must say I'm curious to see how good it turns out. So I'm using it on this small grill to begin with. Rather than going full out on a large part, I thought I'd experiment on a smaller part. And I'm absolutely amazed and thrilled at the beautiful chrome finish of this product. It looks amazing. So I think, okay, full steam ahead. So I do the larger parts, and unfortunately, I should have learnt my lesson by now. The end product is only as good as your preparation. Oh, I dropped it there as well. That was a bit annoying. So I wasn't happy with the finish. I mean, look at this, the front bonnet there. It came up real weird with a sort of a strange smear on it. So I ended up stripping it all off and cleaning it with alcohol and doing a really thorough job of trying to remove any blemishes. And you'll see at the end, they came out quite good. These seats, they should be high gloss maroon. They look like they had dust on them and are a little bit faded. I thought maybe if I just give them a clean up with some washing up detergent and warm water, it might have rejuvenated them. Now initially I was quite pleased because when they were wet, they actually looked quite dark and new. But when they dried out, they went back to that sun-damaged, dull pink again. So I have resorted to respraying them a matching colour to try and then I shall be adding some Tamiya clear top coat over the top to try and make them look like the original plastic again. Nice shiny plastic seats. This is the Mr. Hobby Russet number 33. It's a great colour and it's coming in really handy for Matchbox cars. In so many different models, they use that russet colour. So part of the preparation this time round is not only the thorough cleaning and drying, but I'm also putting on a very fine coat of the Tamiya light grey. And this gives a great base, a nice smooth base for the top coat to go on. For the tyres, I'm rejuvenating them with some of this bumper and tyre spray that I use on my car. So all I did was just place them on a piece of newspaper and give them a light coat of the spray outside the hobby room, mind you. Because if that stuff gets in the air, it can settle on things and you end up with like fish eyes on your paintwork. Somebody told me that, and I believe them. So that stays out of the hobby room. Julie used the metal polish to polish up the chrome plate underneath for me. And after that, we had a cup of tea, and then I got back into it. And I'm now going to repaint the seats, which is a very light coat of this russet. I've thinned it down with a little splash of thinners. Oh, I think I do now. So I just thin it down with a little splash of thinners. Helps it flow through the airbrush just that little bit better. I had to thoroughly clean the airbrush, by the way, before I went from the chrome to the russet. And the chrome was very difficult to clean out because it was that chromy, it looked like I'd cleaned it, but it was actually chrome paint in there. So it took me a while with some little cotton buds on sticks and plenty of alcohol, not the drinking sort, the cleaning sort, and I got it good. There's a comparison of before and after. It's only a subtle difference, a couple of shades, but it makes all the difference. I'm trying to make this thing look factory fresh. So after I paint them, I sit them up there on my magnetic clamps and allow them to dry. Now here's all the parts, just try counting them, there's loads of them. I can't count them. There's also that little handbrake lever too that you probably didn't see me remove. Now that's a 3D printed radiator grille. Like I said, my printer is a PLA one, it's older technology. I would like to buy a new one sometime soon, but we shall see. So it is what it is. I've glued it into place with some medium viscosity Starbond superglue, black in colour, and that's not going anywhere. I'm putting the rejuvenated tyres back onto the re-chromed spoked wheels. They look lovely. Have a look at that. Nice. Now, these are the parts that I painted. And you can't see at this stage. Oh, by the way, I did put these in my oven for 5 or 10 minutes at around about 70 degrees. And the Molotov paint, you see, takes a very long time to dry ordinarily. So if you've got a little oven, it can speed things up. Otherwise, you run the risk of leaving fingerprints on the model, which I've done multiple times using the Molotov. Sometimes, if you do the headlights on a car, it can take 2 days to dry. I'm using some more of that medium viscosity black Starbond superglue there to fix these seats back into position. When this is assembled, you don't actually get to see those plastic protrusions through the holes in the base. So no one will ever know, unless they pull it apart again in another 20 years, that this has been tampered with. The steering wheel, I gave a quick spray of gloss black. Just again, that was faded and grey. Very much similar to the seats, like sun damaged. So we're nearly finished. Have a look at this. Beautiful detail on this car. I just love it. There's rivets all over it. There's leaf spring suspension. Nice hood ornament. Door handles, door panels. It's just a beautiful little thing. These really are works of art. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love them. Now, as I said at the beginning, I cut the axles in half. One in the centre and one off centre. So I'm just sorting out which end goes with which. And I'm using this 3mm aluminium tubing. I wanted 2.5, but they didn't have any. So this is the next best thing. And again, when this model is reassembled to the base, you're not going to be able to see the method used to refit the axles. So it will be concealed underneath between the wheels. But first up, I have to measure the gap, which is the length of the tubing that I'm going to be cutting to receive the ends of the cut axles. So I can't remember if, yeah, this is the back. The back's slightly wider than the front, I think. So the back's 16.7. I'll write that down because I've got a memory like a goldfish. And the front is smaller, 14.1. Excellent. Now to cut these, I watched some hobbyist online, I forget, a long time ago now, and he revealed that you don't need any tools to cut this aluminium tubing. You can just use a craft knife by rolling it around forwards and backwards multiple times until it just cuts through, and it's quite quick and you get a lovely neat cut too. Once again, Starbond super glue, great product. One little blob on each end of the tube should do it. Sets in about 3 minutes, although there is a accelerator that I've used in the past, but I don't need that today because this is a little bit fiddly, so I needed the time to position everything and align it so I could get the axle ends in. I must admit I did get a little bit frustrated at one stage there. Lovely looking model, really beginning to take shape. Now the rear wheels. This last pin I had trouble getting in. I don't know whether it had a burr on the end of it or what, but I had to wiggle and push it a bit and got it in. Just check them out, make sure they're free running. Yep, looking good. I'm happy with that. Now I've got to mount it back on the ashtray, and it's a little bit of a Chinese puzzle. Which bits do you put in first? I worked out that you put the screws in the model first, and then you put the screws through the holes, and then you put the plate on. To try and do it any other way is just too fiddly and frustrating. So this took me about 20 minutes to work out how to do this. This must have been what they did in the factory. So you put the screws in the model first with the collars, and then you put the head through the base of the ashtray and put that plate on. Wow. This is a thing of beauty. This is going to be pride of my collection. I love it. Have a look at this. This poor sorry looking thing had been sitting in that antique shop for who knows how long. And now it's been rejuvenated with some modern chrome paint, nice red seats, russet red seats, touched up the black tyres and cleaned the spoked wheels, and created a radiator grille that under normal inspection looks just like the real thing. And I'm very, very pleased. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Now, before I sign off today, I thought you could come with me and we'll take one last look at this beautiful piece of Matchbox historical memorabilia. Here she is. What? Who's... Kevin, you little... He'd be smoking all right when I put him on the barbecue. Thank you so much for watching. This is Marty from Marty's Matchbox Makeovers saying goodbye.
This is really embarrassing. People coming by and seeing some guy play with a puppet. Oh!
Cut that.